Welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about something super important, and it's self awareness. And this goes way beyond just the basics of these are my skills and these are my weaknesses, yada, yada, yada. It's way more. It's actually how you are being perceived in the world. Are your words and the way your tone, the way you say it, and your body, is it aligned? And after you've done that amazing inspirational speech, your actions, are they aligned? Or are you just full of shit? This is exactly what I'm going to dive deeper into. And also the self-awareness of, my personality, how does that affect other people? Or when I walk into a room, who am I representing? What am I representing? The expectations are different if I am Charlotte, the CEO of this big international conglomerate, and everyone turns to me is like, oh, let's see what she has to say. Versus if I am in a completely different context and I'm a student, maybe no one would even notice me because everyone is then, seeking the attention of the expert in the room taking notes. So we are all the same people, the same person, every day, but the roles we have are different. And different settings, requires a different set of attention. Because whether you like it or not, if you are in a position of power, if you are a manager or CEO or an inspirational leader, you are always on stage. That means that whenever you walk into a room in the capacity of being a leader or a manager, people will always like analyze you, the body language. Or, she's looking a bit tired. What is that about? Oh no, are layoffs coming? And this is especially important when you are working in a company that is going through a tough time, or whether it's a turnaround case, then there's also a lot of uncertainty in the air. So they will scrutinize you even more because they are scared and think they're a bit unsure about what's going on. So they think that if they're going to can read you properly, maybe they will stay ahead of the curve. So it's super super important. Always be mindful of your posture, your energy, and how you show up in the world, basically. But let's go back to the basics. Let's start with the strengths. I mean, we all have things that makes us unique, and it actually starts already from childhood. But in those early days, it's a survival tactic. What behaviors do we get reward and love and affection from doing, and what types of behaviors are not the key to a successful life. And the successful life of a child is getting love and support from your family, right? But that can then change over time. And it is almost certainly, you get to a point in your life where those survival tactics, so being the good girl, or being the supportive person, or always being the leader, that could change because we all develop, and we don't need people around us for survival to the same extent that I've talked about in previous episodes. But we're still social creatures and we really need that validation to fit in. So I would always say the more introspection and the more reflection on how you actually would like to design your dream life, the closer you are to actually manifesting it into happening. Because you are here today because you are a leader or you want to aspire to become one. And knowing your skills and being unapologetical about it, that's the key. You can't show up to an interview and say, I'm kind of good with people. You need to sell yourself. You need to be confident. You need to feel that, you belong at the top. You need that sense of entitlement. And especially women, they need to feel entitled to be at the top. Because any lack in that confidence is going to get you like kicked off, because then someone will take your place, because it's all about being confident in who you are. But then when it comes to your weaknesses, luckily no one's perfect and we're all human. But if you are in a position of power, you actually have the opportunity to fill in those weaknesses gaps. Because if you can put together a management team for your organization, it's so important that you know your strengths, but then also know where you are not stellar, and super competent. It could be skills, but it could also be behaviors, right? So if you know that, then you can hire the best people in each field. But when it comes to personality, you have the luxury of tailoring a team that is so diverse that it's just rock solid. There's not one missed opportunity that will that you won't be able to grasp, right? And talking about weaknesses is not necessarily something dramatic like a severe handicap. One of my weaknesses, if I were to work for an international company that are looking to expand into China, would be that I don't speak Mandarin, or so it could be a weakness, but it could also be something that, yeah, or I'll want to learn. But if I don't have the time and capacity to learn, let's just get someone who speaks Chinese on board, right? It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. Or it could be that, let's say you're a CEO that is very visionary and very hands-on and work a lot with people, but when it comes to Excel spreadsheets, you can do it, but it's going to take a bit more time and it's going to take more energy. But why not compliment someone in the team that they can actually step in to handle the spreadsheets because they freaking love it, and it's done in 5 minutes. So the weaknesses is also something that, okay, what type of support do I need so that I can focus my energy fully on what makes my heart sing, what my core strengths are. Because at the end of the day, it's teamwork. I know that a lot of you guys know this already. So now let's just step into the area that is maybe a bit more unknown to the average person out there. And it's this constant reflection on who we are and how we show up in the world. So, knowing your personality type, you can adjust from there. And it's for me, I have screwed up so many times in my life. I made so many mistakes and I've jumped the gun too quickly. I've taken on job assignments without doing a proper due diligence and then sitting completely, in deep shit. But, you know, when they, there's a saying, when you go through hell, just keep walking, right? So even when I'm in the darkest of hours and I'm really up to here in troubles, okay, one day I'm going to look back at this incredible experience and I will smile because I will learn so much from this. And so having this mindset of never let a good catastrophe go to waste, that will always keep you moving. One of the CEO jobs I jumped on, I did not do my due diligence properly, and it turned out to be so much harder than I ever would have imagined. And after a year, I had to resign, and that just felt like such a failure. And I could have just completely, died at that point because it was also the company was of a public interest, so there were like so many articles online, that completely like trashed my character, and it was tough. But then I thought, okay, this is a great opportunity to learn what went wrong, what was cause and effect, and what was me being arrogant, or what, because some of it was my fault, but some of it was also like a chain reaction of things. And just being able to sit there when it's so uncomfortable and just peel the onion. Okay, what was really going on here? And what are the key learning points that I bring with me going forward? It's so important. But another aspect of this is also then, okay, how do you show up in the world? And we have different titles in different scenarios. So at one point, I could be the CEO and I walk in a room and I know everyone, the attention will ultimately be on me because, okay, let's hear what Charlotte has to say. But like I said initially, if I'm in a completely new environment, or for me who has traveled a lot this past year, trying to network and getting into new circles, meeting new people, getting new perspectives. I walk in the door and they have no clue who I am. It's not until I open my mouth that they get a point of reference. Oh, she's from Sweden. Oh, she's been CEO of a professional hockey team. Ah, she has working experience from Ghana, West Africa. Okay, then they start to build the pieces together. But before that, it's just you and your personality walking in the door. And so this is so important to know who you are representing at that time. But the way of the way I see that the constant learning and feedback and iteration, learning from past mistakes and all that, it's not about changing completely who you are. It's about being, having an open mind, because even if you are in a situation that you've been in 1,000 times over, it gives you confidence, but it shouldn't give you too much confidence. It shouldn't push you into being arrogant. So one example is, okay, I'm a turnaround CEO, right? So I go in, I'm a fixer, I do something, I leave. So I'm very confident in my ability to read the room, read the situation, quickly see the big picture, and then taking steps towards that goal. So yes, I'm confident in that process, but I also have to fully respect and be humble to the fact that every work situation, every gig is new. It's a new company, it's new people. The company culture plays a huge role. So just stepping in, yeah, I've done this before, don't worry. That would then risk me of being too arrogant to miss the obvious. And if I am too arrogant, do you think people will follow me? Or maybe that could even trigger some people. Oh, yeah, here she comes. Look, I checked her out online. Yeah, she's done this a couple of times, and you can tell she's pretty excited about this one. It looks like she's already thinks it's in the bag. Yeah, yeah. Let's see about that. I mean, that is not the way to get people on board. So it's this constant reading the room, reflecting, and being self aware. And if you still don't know what I'm talking about, you could actually turn to some people that you trust and respect and just ask for their feedback. How do you perceive me? Okay, in my latest gig, I talked a lot to you about certain situations, about getting my marketing team to function in a good way. I mean, in hindsight, could you give me some feedback on that? Because how other people perceive you is also a very good piece to the puzzle, of who you are. But two warnings, two red flags. Red flag number one: when you ask for feedback and you get it, it can be uncomfortable. So brace yourself, always assume, always assume that the feedback comes from a place of love. And even though it hurts in your ego, it's like there's like this little pain in your chest, in your solar plexus area, always think, okay, is there something I can take with me on this one? That one hurt. Ouch. Why did it hurt? My initial response might be to go to attack, like, no, 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 that's not it. No, 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 you completely misunderstood. Oh, no, you clearly don't have the full picture. Yeah, or you can just be quiet and listen and just digest. You don't have to say anything, and then you can go back home and then say, okay, what part of this feedback is something that I can really work on, and what is not valid. So just be mindful. Let the person you respect finish their sentence and then digest it. Don't counterattack them, which is a very common response. I have to struggle with that like all the time when people give me feedback. So it's like, I had to gag myself not to just throw things back at them because they clearly did not understand my situation. Well, of course not. They're not me. They weren't there, but you asked them to give you some pieces, the valuable pieces that, and then it's up to you. What do you do with that information? Do you discard it, or do you actually try to assess it from your point of view? But I said two red flags. The second red flag is actually not about you and how you deal about this feedback. It's the person who gives you feedback. Everyone has opinions, so be very mindful who you ask. Do this person know you? Do they really have your best interest at heart? Because it's difficult to accept, constructive feedback and criticism. But then coming from someone who does not have your best interest at heart, that could really mess with your head. It can actually cause trauma rather than, bringing you back on the right path. So be mindful. But tough love is part of the growing process, and after you assess it, is up to you if you want to implement it, if you want to let it go. But then you need to cut it, and you need to move forward. And also looking back, I said never let a good catastrophe go to waste. It's also the reflection on the mindset of, has it worked for you or against you? It's so easy when we have a bad day or going through a rough patch, like, oh, everything, I'm so misunderstood. You know, it's I'm frustrated. Things are not moving ahead. Why does this always happen to me? Yeah, why does it always happen to you? Is it a pattern that you have? Are you attracting these situations? Is there something you are missing if you constantly end up in the same situation over and over? It's there are some really good quotes here that you can take with you and bring into your life. Is that number one, what you allow will continue. Is there actually a learning point here that you are not embracing? Is that the reason why you keep going back into the same patterns and getting the same results? You can't expect something like a different outcome if you don't assess and are open to the idea to actually change and modify your current behavior and your pattern and your mindset. And also looking back in my career, you know, I've had some horrible bosses and I had some great bosses, but then I mean the truly narcissistic ones that messes so much with your head that you kind of you almost lose yourself. Looking back, you can be angry, you can feel like a victim. It's like, why did that person like messed up a whole year of my life? Yeah, or thank God it was only a year, and the learnings you've had from that situation has equipped you never, ever, ever to get into a narcissistic relationship ever again. It's a learning curve. Or for me, it has actually worked for me, and everything I've been through, good and bad, has brought me to this point in time where I decided to start this YouTube channel and sharing my experiences with you. And how on earth could I sit here and genuinely talk about self-awareness and reflection if I hadn't gone through all these, bad experiences? I wouldn't have the authority to actually sit here and communicate this with you, because if I haven't been in those situations, I wouldn't have had the the perspectives that I do now. And every bad situation, I always assess it. I always try to learn from it. And learning, to me, learning never ends, right? So going back to the case of being the CEO that they call upon when they need you to turn around something or fix something, I'm confident in my ability, but I'm always humble to the fact that I'm walking into a completely new environment. And I guess that's what I feel is the win-win situation here, feeling confident in your ability, but not taking things for granted and not being too rigid in the way that you're operating. Because the minute you're arrogant, you lose people, and the risk of failing, the percentage just keeps going up. So it's that constant mechanism of life, of living. And it's also I read some articles and stuff about coming of age, and when are you old, when are you supposed to retire. And I mean, one of the key aspects of being young and being young at heart is to foster your and really nurture your curiosity, to keep learning. I mean, one example for me was that every couple of years I go to the MIT Sloan and I just, okay, is there a class I can take? Because sometimes, I mean, back in like 4 years ago, I felt like such a dinosaur when it came to crypto, blockchain, and just like last year, I did a class on AI and like AI roadmap, how to really, enforce AI into an organization. Why do I do that? Because I'm a professional board member, and on board level, that's where all the investment decisions are being made. That's where strategy lies. And if I have an important board seat and we are discussing AI, and I just need to know enough to understand the dynamics, how it works, and also to challenge and ask a few relevant questions, right? Because if I don't know that, how on earth are we going to make the right decisions? I currently at this state, I've tried some coding, but I don't think coding is, my what I will be end up doing. But just the fact that I've done it and tried it and understand the elements of it, that's enough for me at the level where I am at and working at the moment. So, just keep on learning, keep that open mindset. Oh, another, okay, this was not actually on my plan here, but another really um, good way of learning is traveling, meeting new people, talking, having good conversation, lengthy conversations with people from other countries, that has other religious beliefs than you, that has grown up in other societies that are different to yours. It just broadens your horizons, and it just gives you a new set of uh, you know just how things work in different parts of the world, and it just gives you a broader perspective on, sometimes you just feel that you understand the conflicts of the world a bit better because you understand where people come from. And I also believe that increased communication, and the more we travel and the more we integrate, we will also be able to solve these issues. But yeah, that's on my personal note. So, okay, I'm just going to try to wrap this up now. So, self awareness, the learning never ends. Know your skills, know your weaknesses, but your weaknesses is also something. Do you want other people to fill in these gaps, or will you at some point in your life, feel that you want to fill those gaps yourself through learning? Maybe I should learn to speak Chinese. Who knows? And be curious. New tech, what's going on in the world, and especially if you work on a strategic level, observing what's going on in the world is actually absolutely crucial for future proving the business that you're running or the business that you are serving as a board member on, right? And last but not least, how people perceive you. Be aware of the role that you play in different rooms that you enter, and never lose sight on the long game, and leave arrogance at the door. You can be super confident and so centered and trusting your ability. That's amazing, because if we don't have that, we can't really spread our wings and fly. So being confident is so important, but also knowing that learning never, never, never ends. And yeah, I'm going to leave you with those beautiful words.